in a small roadside market under the burning afternoon sun. A pepper seller sat quietly beside a tray of red pepper, tomatoes, and onions. Every day was a struggle, but she endured because feeding her children depended on those small sales. That afternoon, the local tax collector arrived. "Where is your levy?" he demanded. The woman pleaded softly. She had not sold enough that day. Transport fare had doubled since fuel subsidy removal. Food prices kept rising. Customers were buying less. She promised to pay later. But mercy no longer lived in hungry systems. In anger, the tax collector kicked over her tray. Red pepper scattered into the dusty roads while people watched in silence. Some pitied her, others feared they could be next. Across the road, a petrol attendant laughed at her misfortune. "To survive in Nigeria now, you must be smart," he mocked. The woman gathered what remained of her pepper with trembling hands and left the market in tears. That day, her children slept hungry. The next evening, the same petrol attendant stopped at the market after work to buy pepper for soup. But the market had changed. The pepper you bought for 500 naira last month is now 2,000 naira, one seller told him. He moved from one store to another, hoping for a cheaper price. But every seller gave him the same answer. Fuel prices had risen, transport costs has risen, traders were struggling to survive, everything was becoming expensive. The attendant checked his pocket repeatedly. His salary no longer matched realities. What he earned could barely feed him, let alone his family. Desperation slowly entered his heart. Back at the filling station, he began secretly overcharging customers and manipulating small balances just to make extra money. He told himself it was temporary. He only wanted enough to survive. But survival built on desperation rarely stays hidden. One afternoon, his manager caught him. Before sunset, he was dismissed from work. As he walked home under the darkening sky, shame sat heavily on his shoulders. At home waited a hungry child and a wife already exhausted by suffering. There were no savings, no support, no hope in sight. That night, he sat alone in silence, staring into the darkness. For the first time, the thought of ending his life crossed his mind. Then suddenly, he remembered the pepper seller. He remembered how he laughed while another woman suffered under the same hardship, now consuming him. And in that painful moment, he understood something many people ignore. When policies crush the poor, suffering does not stop with one person. It moves from street to street, from market to market, from one household to another. A nation does not break in one day. It breaks gradually when survival becomes more important than humanity, when leaders stop listening, and when ordinary people are left alone to carry the weight of economic decisions they did not create. Without compassion, accountability, and relief, hardship eventually reaches everyone except the same leader that has inflicted it, as they already had a provision to caution it for themselves and family. What do you get back from the infliction exacted upon the masses? What gain is the citizen getting as a nation blessed with minerals and resources? Welcome to Broda Jonas series podcast, where truth is acknowledged while silence is felt. I am flesh and blood just as you are. Your name may be this and yours might be that, but mine is whatever you call me. and my last name remains kept against. Today, I will be talking about the Republic of Corruption, human impact of fuel subsidy removal in Nigeria. I will be using Nigeria Economics Crossroads, emphasizing the consequences, challenges, and solutions. Fuel subsidy removal as a key point to explain the foundation of the hardship and insecurity facing our nation. The issues of fuel subsidy in Nigeria is no longer just about petrol prices. It has become a story of survival, hardship, insecurity, and the painful reality facing millions of ordinary Nigerians every day. When petrol becomes expensive in a country like Nigeria, suffering spreads faster than fuel itself. Transportation rises, food prices rise, rent rises, school fees rise. Even the smallest trader in the market begins to feel the pressure because almost every business in Nigeria depends directly or indirectly on petrol or diesel. Even gas we use at home. Did the president think about living through Nigerians' economic hardship before he declared the partial subsidy removal that was actually total? Capital no. Because after 3 years down the line, many Nigerians no longer work to live comfortably. They work simply to survive another day. Someone once said, even if you give a leader 400 years, nothing changes if the people themselves still worship corruption, defend incompetence, and vote with emotion instead of vision. The painful truth is this: the wealthy hardly feel the hardship the way the poor do. The wealthy don't feel that. You will not see the son of a billionaire trekking long distances because transport fare doubled overnight. You will not see powerful politicians sweating in darkness over the night because they can afford generators, solar systems, petrol, endless fuel. The ordinary citizens, the mechanic, the tailor, the vulcanizer, the food seller, the students carries the burden daily. When fuel prices increase, insecurity also grows quietly in the background. Hunger creates desperation, and desperation can push people into crime. In communities where young people cannot find jobs, where businesses are collapsing, and where families cannot feed properly, society becomes more vulnerable to kidnapping, theft, and violence. At the same time, corruption continues to weaken trust in leadership. Many Nigerians believe that some leaders speak against corruption publicly while secretly benefiting from a broken system. When governance lacks transparency and accountability, the people begin to lose faith in the promises attached to the painful economic policies. The removal of fuel subsidy has always been controversial in Nigeria. We all know this. Muhammadu Buhari once described subsidy as fraudulent and unsustainable before becoming president. He described subsidy as fraudulent and unsustainable before he became president, yet under his administration, trillions of nairas were still spent on subsidy payments. Goodluck Jonathan attempted to remove fuel subsidy in 2012, arguing that the government could no longer sustain the cost. However, the decision triggered nationwide protests because citizens feared the burden would fall entirely on ordinary people while corruption remained untouched. Then came Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who officially removed the fuel subsidy in 2023, the first day in office, so to say, declaring that the system mainly benefited a privileged few and drained national resources. On the first day in office, he removed the subsidy. Not even understanding the system. The government argued that the money saved will be redirected into infrastructure, healthcare, education, and social development. No power. Note, no power involved. But for many Nigerians, the biggest concern was not just the removal itself. It was whether there were enough protections for struggling citizens before such a major decision was made. No! He never assessed the system, how it works. He was never a president of Nigeria, but he removed for a reason best known to him. Now, the effect we can see. Small business owners now spend more running generators than growing their businesses. Shop owners increase prices not because they want to exploit customers, but because survival itself has become expensive. Transportation workers raise fares because fuel determines whether they eat or not. Farmers struggle to transport food across states, and the final cost lands on the consumer. In Nigeria today, electricity is unstable, still unstable. So petrol is not just fuel for vehicles. It powers shops, hospitals, salons, schools, bakeries, cold rooms, and almost every aspect of daily life. That is why fuel prices increases affect everybody. The National Assembly itself has debated and investigated subsidy issues repeatedly over the years. Questions have been raised about how trillions were spent, who benefited, and whether Nigerians truly saw the impact of those. While some lawmakers supported subsidy removal as necessary for economic reform, others warned that removing it without proper social support would deepen hardship for millions already struggling. And this is where the real question lies. Have the savings reached the people? Have roads improved enough? Have hospitals become affordable? Have schools become better? Has electricity become stable? Has food become cheaper? Has life become easier for the average Nigerian after 3 years? These are the questions citizens continue to ask. Because leadership is not judged only by economic theories or political speeches. Leadership is judged by the condition of the people. If this is not realized, then we are not running democracy. A nation where citizens work endlessly yet cannot afford basic living is a nation crying for honest solution. Nigerians are not asking for luxury. Many are simply asking for fairness, accountability, stable electricity, security, jobs, and a system where sacrifice by the people also comes with visible sacrifice and responsibility from leadership. The hardship in Nigeria today is not just about fuel. Fuel only exposed how deeply connected every part of the country's survival has become to governance, corruption, and economic decisions. Until leadership begins to place the welfare of the people above politics and personal gain, the suffering of ordinary Nigerians may continue to grow while hope slowly fades from the streets. Yet, despite all the hardship, Nigeria is not beyond repair. The solution to this crisis does not begin with speeches alone. It begins with sincerity, accountability, and leadership that understands that economic policies are not just numbers on paper, but realities that affect human lives daily. If fuel subsidy must truly remain removed, then the government must provide visible alternatives that reduce the suffering of the people. Before I start the alternatives, I believe the minimum wage must be sufficiently improved. And first, Nigeria must fix its electricity sector. A country cannot remove subsidies successfully while businesses still depend almost entirely on generators for survival. Stable electricity will reduce dependence on petrol and diesel, lower production costs, and help small businesses survive. When power supplies improves, prices of goods and services can gradually stabilize. Secondly, local refineries must become a national priority. It is painful that an oil-producing nation like Nigeria still depends heavily on imported refined fuel. Functional refineries and transparent management of the petroleum sector would reduce costs, create jobs, strengthen the naira, and reduce pressure on citizens. Thirdly, public transportation must improve urgently. In many developed nations, citizens survive economic hardship because affordable transport system exists. Nigerians spend huge portions of their income moving from one place to another daily. I used to know somebody that she earns 55,000 naira but spends 30,000 naira on transportation every month. Government investment in buses, rail systems, and transport subsidies for workers and students will reduce the burden on ordinary people. Another important solution is fighting corruption beyond television announcements and political propaganda. Nigeria wants to see accountability not only amongst opposition parties, but across all levels of government. When public officials live extravagantly while citizens suffer, trust disappears completely. Leaders must also reduce the cost of governance. Citizens find it difficult to accept sacrifice when politicians continue to enjoy luxury convoys, expensive allowances, and unnecessary spending. A government asking people to endure hardship must also show visible signs of sacrifice and discipline. Most importantly, Nigeria must invest seriously in job creation and youth development. A hungry nation cannot remain peaceful forever. When young people have opportunities, businesses, skills, and hope for the future, insecurity reduces naturally. But when millions of energetic youths remain unemployed while inflation continues rising, frustration grows across society. The people themselves also have a responsibility. Citizens must stop voting based only on tribe, religion, or political loyalty. Nigeria cannot move forward if competence and integrity continues to come second to ethnic sentiments. Every election shapes the future hardship or prosperity of the next generation. The suffering in Nigeria today should not only produce anger, it should produce awakening. An awakening where citizens demand accountability. An awakening where leaders understand that public office is a responsibility, not a business opportunity. An awakening where national interest becomes greater than personal gain. Because the truth remains this: a nation rich in oil should not have citizens dying in poverty. Iraq have something they call oil for food program. A nation filled with talented youth should not be drowning in hopelessness. And a country blessed with resources should not make survival feel like punishment. Nigeria still has hope. But hope alone is not enough. Hope must be matched with action, justice, and leadership that places humanity above politics. Only then will the hardship begin to ease. Only then will sacrifice make sense. And only then can the ordinary Nigerian finally believe again that tomorrow may truly become better than today. Kindly tag and share to lay the foundation of potential change this country requires. Thank you for watching to the end. Till Thursday, stay blessed always. Bye for now.